Hey, everybody, astrology time. Shane here, daily-astrocat.com. Today is Wednesday. It is the 25th of March. So let's go. Astrology time. What do we got? So our sun is in Aries, and we've got our moon in Cancer. It enters Cancer at 6:33 in the morning. Okay? Moody Cancer. Right? Emotions are going to start running high. We're going to start feeling some of that, right? We were feeling it before, but now we're starting to feel some of those cardinal. There's a square that the moon's going to be having with the planets that are in Aries that are going to start feeling a little bit urgent. Like there's two solutions to every problem, or we're going to start feeling, are we going to go with an emotional and intuitive way of doing it, which we were relying on before, or are we going to move into a more action-based form of action-based way of addressing some of the things that are coming up? And by addressing the actions, we're really just kind of kicking a can down the road for probably about a week, right? Because Mars is going to be entering Aries very, very soon, and that's going to be a whole different ball of wax. And then we're going to start really rattling, shaking the beehive, so to speak. So the moon's actually quite high in the sky. It was overhead. Got home from up in New Hampshire, and I was greeted by my wife outside, and she's like, "Look at the moon." And I was like, looking low in the horizon. I'm like, nope, I had to crane my neck way up to see it. So that's just part of that whole nodal thing and where we're at and where it's at in relation to to our horizon, where it's rising and setting from. Remember, those nodes are actually in Pisces, and they're heading towards Aquarius very soon. I think it changes on July 26th, I said. So that's when the nodes are going to shift from the Pisces Virgo axis to the Aquarius Leo axis, and that's gonna give our eclipses a different flavor, a different feeling. We already had experienced that with the last solar eclipse that was in Aquarius, which is why we're trying to be a little bit removed emotionally from things, a little bit aloof, and trying to do things from a technological standpoint, an inventive standpoint, an innovative standpoint. Just a touch, right? It's just there. So, it doesn't feel like the same old. It feels different, and it's going to get feeling even more different. Now, those powerful squares are equally strong. So, the approaches that you have in Cancer are the same, are not the same, but they're similar to the kind of impulses you feel in Aries, because they're both cardinal signs. They're both inclined to do something, right? They initiate actions, only they initiate them in different ways, right? In Cancer, you have an initiation from an emotional standpoint or from a creative standpoint, where fire signs are also creative. However, it's an active standpoint and can be equally emotional, only it's ardent, and it's a little bit more on the argumentative side, to say the least, right? Whereas Cancer was going to guilt you into it. That's the best I can tell you, It's just like, yeah. If you know, you know. So anyway, waiting for Rebecca to hit me up in the comments on that one. So anyway, look, there's always different approaches to challenges. Now, consider both Saturn and Neptune in Aries, okay? Saturn is bringing order and discipline to changes that we're actively pursuing creative, right? The things that we're initiating, the things that we're trying to bring forth, particularly artistically with Neptune, because they're actually conjunct. The sun is now conjunct Saturn. So our own whole being, if it gets wrapped up in this if it gets wrapped up in this kind of a creative, dilemma, so to speak, really becomes this point of like, okay, we're going to be presented with a challenge, okay? And that is what Saturn's purpose is. So we're coming up against Saturn, and we're being asked to check our resolve. So Neptune's here to change how we dream, create, and inspire. Neptune is discovering that the key to remaining creative is not to give in to temporary boosts of fame and rewards. Okay, this requires a more permanent expression. Today requires much more from us emotionally than we are probably willing to commit. Groundswell movements will draw many in, okay? They're just pulling you right in. Uninspired leadership is beginning to show signs of cracking. So it doesn't matter what level it's at, but if it's not inspired, it's not going to be holding you to the same, like an inspiring leader or something like that. It's just not going to hold. It's not going to hold. the same spin, the same things that you're used to hearing, they're just not working anymore. So truth is demanded, and a lack of it will inspire many thoughts and expressions today. And today's keyword is actually truth. Now, the color is a warm white candle. Why? Because the moon favors those white tones, silver, white, those kind of things, right? The moon in Cancer. So a warm white candle, that gives us our transition from Gemini into Cancer. Remember, we were void of course up until that point, so you'd be sleeping void of course, but you're going to be waking up, here on the East Coast at least, to the moon in Cancer. The sun greets Saturn today, and you're going to need to get going because new challenges will need to be met confidently and competently. Okay, sun in Aries. Aries does not brook that fake stuff, right? We have to do it. The sun in Aries combined with Saturn steals our resolve and tempers it with the passionate fires of what this season can hold. Now, double down on creative efforts. Today, we'll try to throw you off course. Ignore pointless attempts to justify actions. You need to let your actions speak clearly for you. And now we're getting ready to bring everything forward. Told you, we have Mars in the wings starting to come up. We're going to have Mercury starting to come blasting through soon, making it through Pisces and then getting out of the passive state and into a more active and vigorous pursuit of what it is that we need to be doing, both collectively and individually. And first though, we're being called to make sure of the defensibility of our actions. Okay, so thank you very much, ad blocker. I hate you. So let's go. Now, this is the first rather uncomfortable feeling moon in Cancer. Remember, before we had pretty chill ones, and we've been having good results here. But with this emphasis in Aries so far, it's starting to feel a little bit on the uncomfortable side. And that discomfort is a good thing because it's an agent of change, right? And the sun being in Aries is going to be sextile with Pluto, and that will perfect today. So that is another agent of change. And that comes from discomfort. Remember, the change has to break things down first before it can start building things up. The planets in Aries will think that it's finally time to push forward. All right? Thoughts and actions align with what we've been working towards. Yeah, maybe. That sounds good, right? But think about this. Doing so early, doing so before we're ready, doing things early, that's kind of going to be a waste of time. We got to wait for the rest of it to come through. They say choose and pick your battles. This is a great example of picking your battles. Consider all the angles and approaches and expect a degree of resistance. How we overcome this can become an almost karmic lesson, because then we go back to that unique expression and trying to remain a little bit aloof on these on several issues that we're facing. And look, and it does spill into the whole national political arena. And all we got to do is defend human rights and demand that others respect them. That's one part. That's one part of it, right? That's not all we have to do. That's a colloquialism. That's just a transitional phrase. Really, we're looking towards these things, these larger issues as well, because that Pluto in Aquarius is having us is causing us, not causing, but the tendency will be to think in terms of this, in terms of how this is going to benefit society as in general, as a whole, which is what Aquarius is all about. So the test of this is the test of the second quarter moon, because the moon is actually in the second quarter today. We call it report card day, right? Do you have all the facts? No. The facts are being gamed and manipulated in real time. Facts are an endangered species, and they're trying to be sold, and they're being attempted to be sold as narratives in their stead. So that's what they're trying to sell us, are narratives. It's not really truth, because we're getting truth colored by spin, by affiliations and stuff like that. Quite honestly, some of it's just BS propaganda, right? Honestly, if those narratives that they're trying to sell us, if this isn't divisive enough, there's a callous element that also is rising with this shifting, for the lack of a better word, not a landscape, but a shitscape, right? Because really, it's just, what the hell, what's going on? We don't know. And that's the part of the game. That's part of the whole thing, is just having us not really knowing. So keep your personal vibration high. You don't have to get into that, and keep your channels clear. The people are going to find a way to start addressing this. That's the Sun sextile Pluto, and just think about it. That whole collective is going to speak volumes this weekend. All right, so one of my favorite polymaths, in 1655, the astronomer Christian Huygens discovers Saturn's largest moon titan. Yep. Okay, so Christian Huygens, a polymath. And our birth is a musical one. It's Arturo Toscanini. He's an Italian cellist and conductor. For a while, he was probably the most famous conductor in America. Held the baton at the NBC Symphony Orchestra. He was also with a conductor at La Scala and the Metropolitan Opera of New York, the New York Philharmonic, and NBC Symphony Orchestra. He was born in Parma, in Italia, the Kingdom of Italy. And that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate and love every single one of you. Let's sum it up, shall we? The color is a warm white candle. And today's keyword is truth. Good luck finding that, right? Yeah, we're going to dig deep for it. That's your job. Thank you for joining me. Today is a 4. Happy astrocatting.